Good afternoon. Welcome to Sunday Afternoon Rotor Talk Live, Season 2, Episode 2, with special guest Gail Orenstein. How's everybody doing today? Looks like we got Rick's in the house and Mr. Coast to Coast Drones. Bill Thomas is in the house. How's everybody doing today? I won't tell you that it's 84 degrees and sunny here in Tampa today, but that's what it is. Got a lot of things today to go over. I'm waiting for Gail to check in. I thought Gail was going to check in at about 1:45 our time. She hasn't. I did send her a link to the broadcast. So until she checks in, we're just gonna do some drone talk here today. Hope everybody's doing good. Got a lot going. There's a lot going on. I got a video coming out this week, and it's going to be on the you kind of feel okay, Bill. Got a video coming out this week on the if you don't know, this month we're celebrating the 6-month anniversary of the Mavic 2 being introduced. It came out in August 23rd of last year at the See the Bigger Picture event, and I'm going to be doing a video on that. Hey Lon, how you doing this afternoon? Welcome. Real excited about being able to put a video together about that, kind of a compilation of things and some of my thoughts and everything. Hey Norm, welcome this afternoon. Just a compilation of some things about the Mavic 2, the pluses, some of the minuses, and my overall thoughts on it. I want to thank everybody for watching my Waypoint series. I had a lot of fun on that. I learned an awful lot. And it's something I suggest everybody that has a Mavic 2, give it a try. It's really fun. I enjoyed it. It's not Asgard. Welcome. Thanks for showing up this afternoon. Had a lot of fun doing it. It was a blast. It really was. I can't say that I didn't have enough fun with that. So it was good. We had a great time about that. Hope you guys can check us out, and this is kind of a plug-in for Wednesday night for Coast to Coast Drones at 8:30 Eastern with Mr. Bill Thomas and Mr. Xeno Nation himself, Ron Braun. And again, I want to thank Ron Braun for pinch hitting and filling in for as a guest co-host last week. We had a blast. I can't tell you that. And of course, we had some drama with that too. Well, what would life be without drama? Hey, Kevin, welcome this afternoon. That was fun. And you probably saw the sheriff's deputy walking back behind me here. And everybody was like, you okay? And one of the first things I did was I called Ron up to let him know. I was like, Ron, yeah, we're good. I just wanted to let you know that. Yeah. Yeah, Lon, I hear you on that. None of my sunglasses. Yeah. What I did was for the shows, I'm facing away from the window for that. So Brent, welcome this afternoon. Yeah, you won't need your sunglasses. Mike, welcome. Thanks for showing up today. Yeah, I face the camera this way, and I have it mounted on a tripod because originally I had it mounted on the monitor. And my good friend, Mr. Bill Thomas, was saying every time I'd hit the keyboard or touch the desk, it would just jump and vibrate and all that. Simon, welcome. Thanks for joining from the UK. Larry, welcome. So yeah, we kind of had to. I kind of had to improvise. And I'll tell you what, Amazon has some. One of the things I can recommend, and I know, is Amazon Basics. You guys need to check that out. My two of my tripods are Amazon Basics tripod. Well, 3 of them, they're Amazon Basics, and I spent $21 on it. It's fantastic. It's an excellent lightweight tripod. I can't say enough about it. I use the other one when I'm shooting my normal videos. So Mike, welcome from Arizona. Probably got some, I know parts of Arizona got some snow out there. I hope you're doing okay. Yeah, 10 dislikes. Seems that I got mob dislikes, Brent. That was even before the episodes. There were 9 dislikes before the episode even started. So, hey. Yeah, Rick. Yeah, it's called mob disliking, Rick. That's unfortunately a thing that's going around. So I don't know. I guess I'm popular. So we'll just put it to you that way. Peter, welcome. Thanks for joining this afternoon. Don, welcome. How's it going in Pittsburgh? Hope you have some sunshine out there. I know the weather's been changing up there quite rapidly, and it's not been very conducive to flying drones up there. That's one thing that I know. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, with the weather you guys are having out in Arizona, I know. I saw Jim Crennan. He's posted some pictures of some snow out there. I was just like, wow. I mean, that's a rare event. I know that's a rare event for you guys. Yeah, Asgard. I don't understand. It's just mob disliking is starting to take hold. And for me, you know what? People don't know that the more number of likes and dislikes, what a dislike is. And this is something, Alex, welcome from Holland. Thank you for joining. Yes, Cat 77123, my beautiful wife. I'm popular because of you. That's the only reason I'm popular. So, anyway, a lot of people don't know what likes and dislikes really mean. A dislike means you won't get videos like this again. A like means you'll get videos like this again. But when people are looking at them, they'll say, "Oh, they're going to shy away from that." Brucey Prizes, welcome from the UK this afternoon. How you doing? So what, a lot of people, number one, don't know that. Number two, the way it figures into the algorithm is this. It's not the likes. It's not the dislikes. They combine them. And when they see that actually boosts the numbers up. So this will get more hits in the algorithm. So a lot of people don't know that. I found that out. I'm a student of YouTube, and I follow Daryl Eves. I follow a bunch of guys, Sean Cannell, and I did some digging and some deep diving, and I found this out. And that's something that I think's really kind of good to know is, you just don't look at it in terms of the likes and dislikes. You do both. Floyd Moats, welcome. How's your weather up there in beautiful up near beautiful in beautiful Kentucky? Hope it's not too bad. I know my kids have had some yeah, Brent, that does. I think that should help you guys out, because don't be discouraged, because when you're getting, see, anytime in the YouTube algorithm, and this has always been there, Eli, welcome. It's always been in the algorithm that anytime your video gets attention, that's a good thing. And when your video is getting attention, it rises up and ranks in the algorithm. And that's something that I learned early on, is even with all the dislikes, that's not a bad thing. At first you think, oh no, it's like everybody's disliking me and mob dislikes and everything. Well, it's exact opposite. And most people don't know that. And that's one of the things I like to pass that on and give you guys an education about that. So don't be afraid of dislikes, and don't be afraid of, Birdman, welcome. Thanks for joining this afternoon. Carl, welcome. Is this about drones or YouTube? Well, no, Carl, people had some questions about I had 9 dislikes before the show even started. So that's why we started talking about that. So, oh, well, welcome, Carl. Thanks for joining this afternoon. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, and I kind of touched on this last week, we're kind of waiting for Gail. I don't know. I haven't received any replies from her. But one of the things that I really wanted to focus on and take some time is, out there in, we'll call it out there in the technology industry, you have a lot of leakers out there. And for instance, I'm going to talk about the smartphones for just a second. The Samsung just introduced their Galaxy S10 and the S10 Plus and the Galaxy Fold. And there's well-known leakers out there. Ice Universe is a well-known leaker, and there's another one. His name escapes me, Evan Blass. These are well-known, and they carry a great reputation. For us in the drone industry, and for those and UAV enthusiasts, DJI is the king. All right, well, that's something that we all know of. They're not. It's not a secret as far as that's concerned. All right. But as far as leakers are concerned, we have a CETA, and then it kind of drops off the cliff. All right. Now, one of the things I'll say about a CETA, he has been right. but he's probably been wrong more than he's been right. And that's one of the things that we need to be careful about, you know, and take it with a grain of salt. And that's one of the things I know I got burned on putting out a video. And I learned my lesson on that. So that's one of the things I learned my lesson with Osita is, you know, take what he says with a grain of salt. Now, you know, there may be some nuggets of truth. You know, for instance, he posted that picture of the Mavic 2 Pro and then the Osmo Pocket with it. I mean, you know, he does have some access to some things, which is great. But remember, at the heart of things, he's a DJI enthusiast. He's like us all. Oh, you got it in ceramic white, 1 terabyte. Oh, Lon, you must have a money tree in the backyard. But one of the, you know, we need to take this into account. Now, you know, the information that I get from, you know, it used to be, I used to go on Osita. I don't go on Osita anymore. You know, I have some contacts. I know some people. I've gotten to know some people over the past couple of years. So no wife. I like that, Lon. That's pretty good. Well, they're having a great buy one get one free, so to speak. So I may dip my toes into that coming up here. I think we're going to look at, because my contract's up on the on my Note 8. So, but you know, as far as leakers are concerned, you know, we don't really have a true reliable one like an Evan Blast or a Nice Universe. Idaho Sledhead, welcome. How are you this afternoon? Been enjoying your videos lately. I'm anxious to see you're getting the Phantom 4 up. That video on the Xeno, Marcus, was, you guys need to watch. Idaho Sledhead, his name's Marcus. I'm going to promo his video. He did a video on the Xeno carrying an Osmo Pocket. If you guys get a chance to watch it, Marcus, if you can drop a link, feel free to drop a link in the chat so people can check out that video. I absolutely love that. That was fantastic. And you know, I know Ron Brown had pointed that out to me, so I wanted to go ahead and get that and watch that. I thought that was a great video, Marcus. So you know, that's one of the things I will always do on this channel, is promote other channels with great content. Always. You know, that's something that I'm always ready about. Samuel's Films, welcome. Thanks for joining this afternoon. Oh yeah, definitely, Marcus. Go ahead and drop that link in here. That's fine. Ash, welcome. We're talking about reliable information regarding drone leaks and how unreliable Osita is. I know you'd probably you'll probably enjoy this conversation here. Just to kind of carry that here, I'm going to carry it on for a few more minutes here while we're waiting for Gail. I haven't gotten any communication from her, so I don't know why she's unable to make the show this afternoon. But you know, one of the things is, you know, trust your, you know, I have sources that I trust, and you know, that's one of the things that I can say now after I've had some time in things. Thank you, Ash. After I've had some time with some things, and people can tell, you know, when I put stuff out, and as I've gone along, I've gotten an education, and I know what to say. I know when to put things out, and I know what's you know, what's credible. And that's what I've been doing lately, you know, and I know on those videos that I put out, I get a ton of dislikes on that. But like I said, you know, when you get those tons of dislikes, you know, that combining with the likes, you know, that drives that up in the algorithms. For instance, if you type DJI Phantom 5 out there, you'll probably see within the top 5 my latest video out there. So any info on the upcoming GPS update, maybe in April, Brucey? Well, I think we have Gail's coming in here, so hang on a second here, folks. Let me see if I can get this here. I don't know why it's not picking up on the stream here. let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and email Gail here. Gail, if you can hear me, you need to be using Chrome as your browser. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, because it wasn't coming up through my browser. So if you get this, go ahead and use Chrome. Mitch, welcome. Thanks for joining this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and send this to Gail here. All right. Thanks, guys, for bearing with me here for a second. Okay. All right. I just got another email off to Gail. She probably wasn't using Chrome. You have to use Chrome as your browser because I'm using Google Hangouts on my new computer here. So just to kind of wrap things up about that. Rod, welcome. Thanks for joining this afternoon. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but Marcus, I will go ahead and make sure that after the show, I'll drop a link in the description for everybody to check out your video. But you guys definitely need to do that. I thought that was fantastic, and it looked like it was very secure that you put that on there. Just to kind of wrap things up about that, so make sure that. Okay. Okay, Gail's calling in again here. Let me try this again here. Okay, I sent that to Gail again, so maybe she'll get on there. So we'll kind of move on from that. No, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes to that on that this afternoon too. Want to encourage you guys, and I know Bill Thomas is a big proponent about this as well. Support other drone channels that are out there. Everybody that I know of puts out great content. Support them. Encourage them, comment on them. I think it's so important. If you leave a like, make sure you leave a comment too, because, that encourages people. That's something that I try to do every day. If I see somebody going out there and putting out a video, I like to comment on that, and I like to give them some encouragement. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. So we're kind of waiting on Gail, as far as that's concerned. So I'm sorry about that delay, but we're seeing, with the nice weather coming up around here, there's lots more talk about, we've had a lot of talk lately regarding these incidents, and I know there was one recently in the Dublin airport, and and I know Ash, you're probably more up on this than I am. With some of the rules that are changing. And I'd read something about like a 3-mile zone around the airports in the UK. And I'm like you, Ash, and I know you talked about this earlier, and I'm fairly sure you did. Show me the proof of this. Show me the drones. That's one of the things that I know a lot of people have commented on is, where are these drones? I mean, we don't, we hear talk about them, but we never see video proof. We never see a pictures of them or anything like that. We never get out there and see that. So, that's one of the things that I think, it's fear mongering. And, that's one of the things that it's just giving us a bad name out there. And, like Bill Thomas says, we're one community. We need to be unified here, because there's so much that can be done for good with drones. I mean, you see, and I look out there every day and I see Romeo Dersher, who's the director of, I think, he works for DJI Enterprise, I believe, and he's director of safety for them, and he promotes like the Enterprise, the Mavic 2 Enterprise series, for first responders, and other the Matrix series as well. And I think that's fantastic that he does that. I think that's absolutely great. Mike, thank you for posting that for Marcus's video. Guys, definitely need to check out that video. He did a fantastic job on that. I can't say enough about that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. You want to it's fantastic. But as far as the drone is concerned, as far as the these reports, that's just something. Boston Droner, welcome. Thanks for showing up again. That's one of the things. We're not seeing proof of this. We hear a lot. We hear that, there was a drone in the area and everything. But, with all the video surveillance equipment out, with all everybody has a smartphone, where are these pictures at? Where are these videos at? There's no video proof of these things. So, I think that's one thing. I remain very skeptical on these type of things until we actually see some proof, and it gives enthusiasts like us and hobbyists like us and even professionals a bad name, because we do it, we like this, we enjoy the photography aspect of it, we enjoy flying them, but here what we're getting is fear mongering, and people need to be educated as far as that's concerned. So that's one of the things that I have to say is I think DJI is doing a real good job on that. Is they're getting out there and sending people the information to let them know about this, and I think it's fantastic. Gail said she's going to be with us here in a minute, so I'm going to again tell her she needs to use Chrome. Yeah, I give DJI a lot of props for that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Want to talk about a little bit. I don't want to steal too much of Gail's thunder, and I'm hopeful she'll be able to join us here shortly. But she started out as a photojournalist. She was a photojournalist for about 23 years, and she switched over to drones. And I'm going to let her tell you some of that. I'm going to post links down in the description so you guys can check out. She has a YouTube channel, and that's something I definitely recommend you guys going to check that out. She also has a blog as well. Her pictures are worth thousands and thousands of words. I mean, it's impossible to describe where she's been and what she's done. And again, I'll let her get into that a little bit. It's just absolutely fascinating. And her work's been shown all over, if you've seen drone footage from overseas, chances are about 99 out of 100 times it's going to be from her. And some of the conditions that she's had to go through and everything. And it's just going to be, she's just absolutely fantastic. I think you guys will really enjoy hearing from her. Hopefully she has Chrome to be able to do that. So as far as that's concerned, that's one of the things that I learned early on with, I had Rick Smith as a guest on one of my first shows, and Rick wasn't able to get in, and I found out he was trying to get in through, I don't know if he had Firefox or what, but I told him, I said, you need to use Chrome. And as soon as he used Chrome, he was able to join the broadcast. So, and that worked out pretty well. So, could be Lon. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. So, we did touch on a couple things that I really wanted to talk about was, getting back to the Mavic 2 and the anniversary of that. It has been a fantastic drone for me. I have Ron Braun, welcome this afternoon. How are you today? Thank you, Boston. I appreciate that. It's been, we're coming up on in the end of May. It's going to be our 2-year anniversary. We're knocking on the door for 6,000 subscribers, which I think is absolutely fantastic. You guys have just been incredible in your support of the channel. I can't thank you guys enough. It's Bill too. Yeah. Ron Braun. Yeah. Guys, give up some kudos to Ron. If you haven't subscribed to Ron's channel, please do so. Ron does a great job. He's been doing a deep dive into the Xeno. So make sure you guys check out some of his videos. He does fantastic work. And also while you're at it, I think we're going to get Gail this time. There we go. Gail, good afternoon.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Okay, there we go.
I won't tell you it's a balmy 80 degrees in Florida today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice weather compared to here.
So how are you today?
I'm great. I'm just really busy and preparing for an assignment I'm going to West Africa, and I just got back from West Africa and I'm going again. So I had a week break, and now I'm just getting a lot of stuff done before I go.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us here this afternoon. I think one of the things is that I just wanted you to go over briefly how you got started in photojournalism and how you made the switch to drones.
We can't see her. I think there's somebody behind you.
That's my wife.
Oh, hi, wife.
Oh, hi.
Okay. Are we just testing right now?
No, we're live.
I just wanted to tell him that we couldn't see you on the video. We can't see you. The viewers can't see you. So I don't know. That's what I was trying to tell him.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys. I've been out working, so I look like a holy mess. Please forgive me.
Oh.
But it's very nice to meet you.
Oh, it's nice to meet you as well.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Shall I just hold back till you tell me?
No. Go ahead and keep talking. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. I'm at a loss here to find out what's going on. But yeah, go ahead and continue. At least everybody can hear you on this end.
Okay. Let's see. So for the last 23 years, I've been a photojournalist, and I received my undergraduate degree and my master's degree at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And I would say, basically like the last 23 years, I've been very fortunate to be on assignment pretty much very, very globally. So the last place I was in, about 3 years ago, I was in Syria. And I was in northern Syria covering the siege of Kobani. And when I left Kobani, I was uploading some of my work via satellite and talking to some of the newsrooms, and they asked me if I could send them some drone footage. And I was like, no, I don't have a drone. This is like really new. It's really, I can't get a hold of that kind of footage right now. And so I went back and I just started training really, really seriously, because I realized more humanitarian agencies and more news agencies were asking this of me. They were asking for more aerial footage. And so the technology, the drone technology, was perfect, because I had already been to most of the places. And so now I thought, well, I'll become certified in using drone technology. I want to become licensed. I really want to do this in a proper way. And I went to the United States and I became FAA certified, and then I came back home to the UK and became CAA licensed. And so it was kind of a natural progression because the environments didn't really change. It was the technology that changed. And it was the demand for more and more aerial footage.
You know, that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, when you're on the field, and as far as being able to, I noticed in some of your videos, you had talked about, having to deal with obstructions and having to deal with flying. It's a whole different realm for you. Can you kind of tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, the first time I used drone equipment was in Iraq, and I had to really pick it up pretty quickly in the sense that one of the first things I was asked to do was to survey a refugee camp. And so in order for me to do that, remember this is going back 3 years ago, so I didn't have really great equipment. Let's see, the Phantom 3 was out.
Gail, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the link, and if you could click on that link directly, because what happened is evidently I think the Google Hangout session that you started was a direct one between you and me, and not from the show. So
Okay.
I'm going to send you that link again. If you could click on that link, that will work for me. Okay. So
you're going to send it to my email.
Yes, I will send it directly to your email. So hang on just a second here.
Okay.
Okay, I just sent that link.
Okay, let me refresh and oh, perfect. Got it.
So go ahead. I'm going to close this or close that, and then go ahead and click on the other one.
All right.
Okay, I think we got things handled here. I think Gail's going to click on the other link here. So I am awful sorry about this, guys. Thought this was going to be smooth, but obviously very, very interesting. So I'm going to wait for Gail to click on that link again. Thanks for bearing with us here. And here she is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I think where everybody can see you now, Gail. So and here
Okay.
you go.
Great.
You know, one of the things that really intrigued me about you, Gail, was, you know, I watched some of your videos when you were in Nepal, and it really, you know, the gentleman who you were riding with, you know, talking about the drones and everything. And tell us about your experience there, because, you know, I found that to be one of the more fascinating ones when, you know, they had just had the earthquake and, you know, there were a lot of journalists there. Why don't you go into that and what happened? I thought that was very interesting.
Well, yeah, it's been almost 3.5 years now. There was a very serious earthquake in Nepal, and every hobbyist and every professional went to Nepal, and they didn't get permission, or they didn't have a license, or they didn't have any paperwork. So they just took their own liberty to fly over everything. And it was kind of like, as one of the people at the press agencies there described it to me, it was like drone lawlessness. And a lot of people flew over UNESCO sites, and a lot of people just really were flying everywhere. So two things really happened, actually. One, there was a very strong reaction in the media there in Nepal about these, quote, kind of Westerners coming in with their fancy drones. And we Nepali had this horrible earthquake, and we don't even have the money or the training to drone this. And, you know, that makes us look very bad. And Nepalis have a lot of pride, and they were very upset about this. And they were not able to get their own local drone footage, and they had to be dependent upon foreign flyers. So that's one thing. The other thing is the government decided, hey, you are really disrespecting a lot of these UNESCO sites. It's true that the earthquake did hit a lot of them, but you can't just fly over these UNESCO sites. So people were just breaking all kinds of laws. And the thing is, just because you're in an area where it's been hit by a earthquake or some kind of disaster, even though on the ground it's lawless, you still have to work as hard as you can to try and make sure that the local security forces on the ground and whatever local governments are, their buildings are still intact. You still have to try and respect the local airspace. And that sort of went belly up, and it created a lot of havoc there. So the Nepal Civil Aviation authorities decided, well, you know, we're getting a lot of complaints from local media, and we're getting a lot of complaints. We're seeing footage of UNESCO sites and a lot of privacy laws that had been broken. And so they just said, that's it. No more. It is full on ban. And that's how that came to be.
You know, one of the things that another thing, you know, you've been in, I don't know, I think it's at least 21 countries that you've flown in. How do you stay up on all the rules and regulations and what you can and can't do in airspace? I mean, it's just enough for being in one country, but when when you've gone to as many as you have, how do you do that, Gail?
Okay, well, that's a really good question. Now, the problem is, and I'm sort of working with some governments on this, there's no standardization when you go across these borders with your drones. So on the one hand, it's, you know, this is very much in its infancy, and you have to remember that most people don't use drones the way that I use them. And also most people who do drone journalism, which is very few of us, they haven't come from necessarily a photojournalism background. So a lot of the paperwork I'm used to having to get. What is new to that is that you have to be licensed. And since I decided to be licensed in the United States and the UK, I feel I have a little bit of an added layer of protection. And the scary thing is that when you're pioneering something, it's always exciting, but there's always a frightening element to it because, for example, I was recently in the Republic of Georgia where I got a visa to take the train overnight to go into Azerbaijan. And I was told, don't worry about it. You won't have any problems with your drones on the train when you get to customs passing from the Georgian Republic into Azerbaijan. Well, in the middle of the night, I was woken up by customs and I really did get in trouble. They weren't really mean or anything, but they were like, you can't take these drones here. And I said, I'm very sorry. I have a lot of paperwork. I was told that I could. I checked the airspace. And the problem is that these things summarily just change. And so you're not really sure. You could go out and drone one day in Azerbaijan and suddenly, just arbitrarily, the drone laws could change. So you're really at risk still in a lot of these countries where, unlike places like the EU, where the standardization is in all the EU countries, in really remote places, there is no standardization. So if you're flying, when I was on the Myanmar border and Bangladesh and in parts of West Africa, there's no particular law. So you may look up the airspace law, but when you're on the ground, it could be very, very different.
One of the things I noticed, you've flown a Parrot Bebop and a Mavic Pro. Do you have any other drones besides those?
Yeah, I have a huge fleet of drones. And remember, this is three and a half years ago that I was flying, you know, my Parrot Bebop around Iraq, because when I first landed, my Phantom was confiscated because it was at that time Islamic State was using the Phantom, the body of the Phantom. They were changing the payload and they were weaponizing it against the civilian population. So a lot of times they would take my Phantom and they didn't care about the Parrot. So I had to do a lot of complicated droning using a hobbyist drone. And they were not going to let me take that Phantom in at that time until they really got a better understanding of just how these guys had figured out how to weaponize this against the population. And that took quite some time. I used to go into the, because I've lived in and out of Kurdistan for years in Iraq. And so I would be embedded with the Peshmerga, who are the Kurdish security forces. And a lot of times I would see a lot of fighting going on, but nobody had ever used drones before. So this is very, very much, like I said before, this is very much in its infancy. And especially in Iraq, when I was there covering the Mosul offensive, that was the time when Islamic State was using the equipment a lot against the population.
You know, one of the things that I've just been dying to know, and this is one of the questions that it's really come up for me, is, you know, when you're in a lot of these countries, you know, we have, I mean, you know, for us hobbyists here in the States and the UK, you know, we go inside, you know, we plug our chargers, our adapters in and everything. How are you able to do all that? Because a lot of times, you know, power is not something that is easily found when you're out in areas that you're at. How do you do that?
That's very true. You have to, I'm used to that as a photojournalist, and oftentimes I will I'll just ask the military, can I, show them my documents, and I'll say, I need to charge some equipment, and they will have a lot of triages set up where they've got tanks and stuff. I don't do that often because it's not fair for them to be put in that kind of compromising position. They're not responsible for me. But if, rarely and occasionally I'll do that. But instead I'll put the burden on myself, and I'll have my fixer, who is my guide, carry. Right now, I carry about 45 batteries around. So it's very battery intensive, but I do that because it's very hard to get to a lot of the places that I go. They're very remote. And by the time you get there, you're very exhausted. And the last thing you want to think about is, oh my God, I only have 3 batteries. I have to only get this and only get this. You may never be able to get through those checkpoints again. So you really have to be very, you have to be very prepared. And I just wrote an article the other day about how UAV batteries are the Kodachrome of my time, because when I was a film photographer, I used to carry bags of Kodachrome around, and now I carry bags of UAV batteries around.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really just found real interesting. You talk about, I would dare say you're definitely one of the pioneers of drone journalism as far as that's concerned. And for aspiring females, I know I have a coworker who is very travels quite a bit, and she's interested in doing something like you as well. What kind of advice would you give, especially to females who want to start out with something like this, Gail?
I would say that a few things. First of all, I would never encourage anybody to go to a war zone or a humanitarian zone if they have not done any kind of undergraduate or graduate work in the field. Because often when you go to university, some of the things you have to do is you have to, go to some places and come back and bring your work and your documentary work. The thing is, you need to do a lot of training. You need to take hostility courses. And I always tell young females, you need to get out on the street in your area, wherever you live, and see how your level of comfortability is there. If you feel comfortable shooting the streets of Chicago, then you may feel comfortable, bumping that up and going to, Nepal or somewhere else. But if you don't feel comfortable on the streets in the United States, you're not going to feel comfortable in places that are very remote and very isolated. So you really need to take a lot of training courses.
So, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, there's with all the technology and it's advancing so much as far as UAVs are concerned, how do you bridge the gap from, because I know you a lot, like you said, you've been in war zones, and you brought up about the Phantom being confiscated. How do you convince local authorities that what you're doing, and I know you show them paperwork and everything, but how do you convince them that you're there just to do this as far as being a drone journalist is concerned, and from that standpoint alone, how do you do that?
Well, you don't convince them. If you do not have the proper paperwork, you can't bargain your way through customs at an airport. Like, for example, in Iraq, you can't do that. First of all, it's not professional. And second of all, you're highly unlikely to get through. So if you're going to go to Iraq, you want to be able to fly. So the first thing you have to do is you do have to get licensed. So I have 2 licenses, the FAA and CAA. I also have all my photojournalism paperwork. All of it's notarized. All of this stuff is very paper intensive. Your agency has to sign off on it. You just have to really have, the more paperwork you have, the more likely you are to get through, and the more official you are and the more professional you are, the more likely you will get through. I've really, even when my equipment was confiscated, I was able to go back the next day because I went to the Foreign Affairs office and I said, look, there seems to be some misunderstanding here. I am going back to get my drone and I'd like you to sign off on it. So you have to be able to feel comfortable to go into a military office or government office and really just sit down with them and discuss the kind of paperwork. You may have to have it translated, you may not. But there's a lot of work that you have to do to be able to go to these places.
You know, one of the things that I was just absolutely curious. I know you said, you own a fleet, and I know you talked about how the Parrot was a little quieter. I think I'd watched on some of your videos, so it didn't stir as much attention as say like a Phantom or the Mavic.
Yeah.
What would be your, if it exists today, what is your favorite drone and why for photojournalism?
Well, for drone journalism, I use I have two favorite ones. I use the Parrot Anafi, and that's only because the gimbal can do a 180 straight up, so I can get a completely different view of everything. And I use my Phantom 4 Pro 2V, and I love that. I love that drone. That's a fantastic drone. It feels to me very sturdy, and I've been sort of using Phantoms a lot. So for me, it's a really good drone. And my perfect one, I think, would be the weight somewhere between that little Anafi and the Phantom 4, because that's still a kind of cumbersome drone. But I love the fact that the Anafi allows me to shoot straight up to the sky, because I fly under bridges and I can get amazing footage with that Anafi. But it's not a real stable drone. It's not really a professional drone, but I love the ability to be able to get certain angles with it that I can't with that Phantom. So somewhere in between there. And I don't really like folding drones that much. People are into folding drones. I don't really like them that much. One of the reasons being is because I'm around a lot of dust, a lot of grit, and a lot of dirt a lot. And a lot of times, the more folding I have to do, the chances of some dirt and stuff that are going to get into the crevices are higher. So I don't want to have any parts that are really, moving too much. And for me, folding drones, even though people would argue, well, you can go faster, you can just put it in your pocket. That's not really how I drone. And a lot of people forget I'm not droning just I'm not droning a castle, or I'm not droning on the beach somewhere. I'm droning in very, very harsh environments with a lot of dust. The environment is very hardcore.
Being you're in a lot of these war-torn areas, have you really felt at any point in time that your life was in danger?
Sure, you think about that, and you think, you kind of say to yourself, I'm really sorry, Mom and Dad, and I'm really sorry to, my husband, and this is definitely it. And, and then I just kind of pull back and think, but this is the choice I made. And drones have helped a lot in that now I can do a pre-assessment, a survey, and there's places that I can look through, my FPV and now I can make the choice of saying, well, I don't necessarily want to go over there yet. I will go over here. So from a safety standpoint, the drones have helped. But one thing that's kind of misleading in all my interviews, people are like, oh, this is great for safety, Gail. This is wonderful. Well, it is, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because I'm flying over something, I still can't see IEDs. So I may fly over an area and it's more that I can see the rubble, so I'm not going to break my ankle. I'm not going to fall. There's a lot of times I have fallen, of course, and you fall into layers of glass, and you know, you got to get up and you got to stay with your group, or you got to stay with the other photojournalists, or if I'm alone, I want to make sure that I get back by dark. So I'm not necessarily doing it to say, oh yeah, it's a great security reconnaissance reason I'm doing it. It's not necessarily going to guarantee that there still aren't IEDs that I have no idea where they are. It really helps more with the footpath, that I can kind of see where I might want to go. That's more clear from a blown out area.
So on assignments, and this is one of the other things that I was very curious on. Have you ever lost a drone?
Yeah, the first time I lost my drone was 2 weeks ago. I lost it in the Atlantic Ocean. I was in Cape Verde, and I was droning, and my Phantom 4 took a nosedive into the Atlantic, and I was very lucky because I was droning a fisherman's village, and it just took a nosedive in, but there was no way I was going to go without getting that drone. So I happened to be a very good swimmer, and the fisherman took a boat out to the area that the drone was, and I just swam to it, and they had some goggles and they went deep underwater and they retrieved it. And I was so excited. There is a video of me actually swimming out there and retrieving it. I don't recommend that anybody do that. It's pretty stupid, and you have to be a really good swimmer. But I was just like, I really want to retrieve my drone. I want it back. And so it became like a whole village thing. And we came back, and we had some fish, and I was soaking wet, and we got warm by the fire. And yeah, that was the first time that ever happened.
So have you been able to get it fixed? Is it running again?
No, it was submerged so long.
Oh, okay.
But I have very, very intense liability insurance. And that's another thing. You don't go to these areas without liability insurance.
I was going to say, that was another one of my questions. I'm sure you do have good insurance.
Yeah, I have very good insurance, and people I see a lot of people fly drones, and they fly them very recklessly, and they don't even think to get liability insurance, and they're not trained. I'm a very, very vigilant flyer and a vigilant teacher. And the way that I was taught to drone, I was taught manually. So I didn't even get to use GPS. My teacher, Peter Milner, is one of he owns a flight school here, and he works with the Civil Aviation Authority. He just really taught me, if you can't fly manually, you have no business flying at all. And I couldn't agree with him more, because a lot of times where I go into the remote places, you lose GPS. The airspace is not really set up for these kinds of things. And when I lose GPS, I'm very, very comfortable bringing it back manually. You know, ADI mode, no problem. These are very, very tricky kinds of things that happen, and you have to be really in control. So I'm definitely, if you're going to do this, you need to be properly trained.
You know, I don't know if you ever heard of Ready Set Drone. That's a channel on YouTube, and my good friend Kelly Shores runs that. one of his things that he always recommends is, and I know he says when you're starting out, he recommends the SEMA 5C because it's totally, you know, there's no GPS, you know, it's like a $50 drone, but you know, you really learn how to maneuver it. You know, know how to use the throttle, know how to maneuver around things.
That's right.
And you brought up a fantastic point, Gail. I think that's, you know, and I know, you know, we're all spoiled here. I mean, you know, and it's like, you know, I know for me, if I don't get that GPS lock, I'm not going out, you know. But you know, I've had times, you know, before where, you know, it drops into ADDI mode. And when it does that, I mean, it's just like pilot instincts kick in. And, you know, as long as you can see it, and that's the one thing that I really preach is, you know, that visual line of sight. As long as you have that line of sight, you're good. And that's one of the things that I'm into. And if anytime, you know, if something starts to obscure that or something, you know, I flip around and I'm home. You know, if I can see
same with me.
I'm home. You know, that's one thing I don't even think about. You know, one of the things that I found real interesting was how you've covered, you know, some of the humanitarian things as far as that's concerned, you know, and I know you have a real passion for a lot of these women. And I did see one of them, and I don't know what country it was, and excuse me, but I think they were painting a boat, if I'm not mistaken, or something. And if you can tell me a little bit about that and tell the audience a little bit about that. I thought that was just fascinating how, you know, you do things with that.
Oh, that was that's in West Africa, in Cape Verde. And one thing I noticed about a lot of over the last 3.5 years is I meet so many women, and not only in refugee camps, but doing a lot of extremely dangerous, hazardous kinds of work. And the work that they do, they don't have the proper breathing apparatus, and they don't, you know, their air is very compromised. And a lot of the camps that they live in, they don't, maybe there's one toilet for 2,000 women. And I fly over that, and I'll share that with the United Nations and all these humanitarian organizations. With those girls that particular day, I was droning a fishing village because one thing, my dad was a fisherman when he had his days off, and we were very close. He passed away recently. And when I am flying, I always take time to go to fly over a local fishing village, because they still do things the old ways, and they fish with really incredibly unique boats. And from an aerial perspective, it's wonderful footage. And these two young women were doing this intense labor, and they had these masks on, these particle masks. But a particle mask isn't going to help you with this horrible compromising air that these drills are producing, all this toxic stuff. And so I just took some aerial portraits of them. And I find that one of the things that I would like to do is start a charity where I could, you know, help women out, because although every time I go around, I try and, you know, give them some money, it's not like I can really sustain that. So I'm looking at several kinds of charities to help some of these women who are in very difficult work environments. And so those women were some of them.
Yeah, that was very interesting. And one of the things that kind of leads me to another question is, you know, I take it you are an independent drone journalist. You know, how do you sell your footage to news organizations? How do you receive compensation for what you do?
Well, remember I've been with a lot of the photojournalism agencies for years, so I get assignments from them.
Okay.
And so what's not self-funded is the charity that I would like to start. So assignments I get quite often, and I get asked to speak quite often. So, you know, my living does come off of that, and I'm represented. My work is in Getty, and I'm always being asked to use aerial equipment all over the world, because in a post-truth world, what's going to save news is drone journalism. Because, for example, when I was in Myanmar and the Rohingya, there were hundreds of thousands of Rohingya crossing the Bay of Bengal, and there is no possible way I can fake footage of hundreds of thousands of Rohingya crossing the Bay of Bengal. It's just physically not possible. And so that's where we will end up winning, is aerial footage will be produced more, will be asked to get more evidence-based footage. They want to know every single place, every geospatial positioning, how high, what the distance is. So the training is very different. As a photojournalist, I didn't have to say I was 100 feet from this protest or this conflict. But through, you know, the telemetry, you have all of this information, and you have to, in your logbooks, not only do you have to put how many hours you've manned and what you've done, but now the news agencies require a lot of mathematical evidence, because they're being challenged. They're being challenged every day. And our jobs are becoming much, much more mathematical and evidence-based. And I think aerial footage is the way that we will combat fake news for sure. I see it happening now.
Yeah, Gail, that's fantastic. That was one of the things I was going to ask you. I mean, you know, it's hard to go out there. I know I had somebody. I don't know if you're familiar with the Tampa Bay area. We have a very famous bridge called the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. It replaced. There was a tragedy, you know, back in the '80s where the bridge got hit by a ship and a number of people lost their lives. And it's one of the sites. It's one of the nice things around here. I was challenged because I went out there from a good location, kept line of sight, and I did a video of it. And somebody challenged me, how do you know that you were out there? And I said, it's real easy. And here it is, you know, in my log. I mean, you know, it was wonderful to be able to do that. And that's a great way to combat this, you know, this epidemic of this, you know, false news or journalism and everything, you know, because, you know, it's there, you're there, and you have that proof. And I think kudos to these news organizations that are asking for, you know, you to provide this, you know, the math behind all of this, because, you know, it provides solid proof. And, you know, your work, you know, and I've seen a number of videos, it just really speaks for itself. As far as countries that you haven't visited that you'd like to visit, could you tell us some?
I think one of them is definitely, well, there's three. I would like to go to the Central African Republic. I'd like to go to CAR, and I'd like to go to Congo, and I'd love to drone around. Well, I've been to the Victoria Lakes, but I haven't been there with drones. There's parts of Africa right now, and Djibouti. I would love to go to Djibouti because a lot of the Sudanese have flooded into Djibouti. And there's so many places in Africa where the borders, I'm very fascinated by refugees and internally displaced people. But the thing with IDPs is usually they will go to their refugee camp internally where the conflict is happening in the country. Once you start dealing with refugees who have crossed border, these borders are changing all of the time, and it will be aerial footage that will be able to see how much land through conflict the borders are changing and the environment is changing. And what starts happening when hundreds of thousands and millions of refugees start changing the environment of these places. And I'm very, very fascinated by what happens and the changes that happen on the ground after millions of people have crossed from a cross-border conflict. So places like that, fascinating.
That's absolutely that's absolutely fascinating. And if you could let my viewers, I just have a couple more questions here. When you're in areas, either when you're out there doing your drone journalism, what are your accommodations are like? Because I don't want to. And I think this is good especially for those that are aspiring to do something like this, to let them know what it really is like. It's not, you're not staying in a 4-star hotel with the bed turned down with chocolate on the covers. Tell us what it's like. Tell us what you have to deal with when you do these things.
That's actually a really great question, and I think a really important one, because you're right. Well, the first night, you're lucky you're like in a 4-star hotel, and you really realize, okay, this is I'll see you in 3 weeks, and you kind of wave goodbye to the pillows and everything. And I always take like a selfie of the room just as a reminder that I won't have that comfortable bed for a while. Lots of times when you're with, for example, opposition fighters in, let's say Iraq, they live in, very small rooms, and they're split. The women stay in one room and the men stay in another. And you'll oftentimes be in safe houses where there's a mattress on the floor. And to be honest with you, sometimes it's very comfortable. And when I was in Syria, I was smuggled into Syria, and I stayed with the media corps there, the Kobani media corps, and
okay. Looks like we got disconnected with Gail here. Maybe she can get back in here. So I hope you guys have just absolutely, Gail is just absolutely fantastic. I can't tell you how thrilled I am. We lost the link somehow, so don't know what that is. So we'll just hang on here for a few moments and see if she's able to get back in. But as you can tell, Gail has a incredible life, and for flying drones for her, it really gives you a incredible and just absolutely fascinating idea of a complete use of drones that you probably haven't really thought of. I mean, you think of the news organizations like CNN or, MSNBC or other ones out there, or UPI, other ones that are using drones, here in the States to cover things. But, this is around the world. And what I'm going to do is I'll make sure to drop some of the links. Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate that. What I'm going to do is drop some of the links in the description so you guys can definitely check it out. I'll drop a link for Gail's YouTube channel, so you definitely can subscribe to that. I will also drop a link to her blog. You guys she updates that very frequently, and she is also on Twitter, and she posts very frequently on Twitter. In fact, that's how she found me. Just to let you guys know, I thought I'd tell you that she reached out to me. She said she saw my channel and she saw me on Twitter, and she really enjoyed what she's seen. So, and then one thing led to another, and I asked her if she'd like to be on the show. So yeah, Gail's back here.
So, I don't know what happened there.
That's okay. So just kind of wind things down and close things up here. Where, and I was trying to give the audience a little bit of this. Where can we find you on the internet, and how can we see more of what you do?
Well, you can find my work. If you just Google my name, you can find my work, but you can go to my website. I'm in the process. I've got so much footage. The problem is that I haven't been able to, I'm getting so, I've just gotten so much footage over the years, but the time to put it up and do all that hasn't really been on my side. But now I'm actually have a team here, and we're working on putting my footage up, and you can see it in Getty, you can see it on my website, you can see all my interviews on my website, and pretty much, like I said, if you Google my name, you'll find bits and bobs all around, and it will be on my website very soon, though. And if you want to follow me, every time I do go somewhere, I use Twitter. That's just really for safety reasons, but so people know where I am. But you can pretty much find my work everywhere. And I'm sure if you've watched any aerial footage in the news, it'll probably have been mine. There aren't, as I said, there aren't very many of us around, and I've never met another female. I'm mostly with, it reminds me of my photojournalism days. There's mostly men drone journalists.
Two more questions for you.
Sure.
The next, one of the things that I was just very curious about was, you know, as far as, you know, you had mentioned, you know, wanting to start some, you know, charities and so forth. You know, will obviously you be able to post those on your website, because I think that's one of the things I wanted to ask was, how can we get involved with some of these areas of need that you see around the world that aren't being addressed?
Well, you can, there's a lot of very good humanitarian organizations. And I myself, one of the things that I'm setting up is for, one of the things that I fly over a lot are the conditions over refugee camps. And unfortunately for women, it's not very sanitary. So one of the funds that I would like to start is working with making the living conditions for these women a lot better. And I see that as a universal. That's not just at one refugee camp. That could be going anywhere in the world. So there are a lot of, UNICEF is an excellent one, and there's a lot. I would definitely do a lot of double and triple sourcing, though, to make sure that you are checking out what they're really doing and the work they're doing. Make sure they're established, and you know, make sure they who they say they are. That's really important. Some of the older humanitarian agencies, of course, are very well established.
Kind of got want to close with maybe a technical question here.
Sure.
You know, when you're on the field like that and you're taking your SD card out of your drone and
Mm.
you're uploading it to your PC, how do you technically, what do you do? I know for me, you know, I use Dropbox a lot because it's very
Mhm.
convenient for me. How do you handle that? How do you upload after you've gone out there and done some filming?
Well, that's a good question. It really it depends. If I'm in the monsoon, I don't stay in the field. I will take a rickshaw back, and sometimes it can take 5 to 6 hours, but all my equipment is waterproof. Even my card holders, everything is 100% waterproof, because I can't necessarily have satellite in the field if it's raining. So I make sure that I am at least always able to get back to where I'm staying. And a lot of these places, I will have to sometimes smuggle information out with some of the soldiers. So it really depends where I am. Each place is so vastly different.
Gail, I can't thank you enough for being on this afternoon, and I'm trying to be respectful of your time because I know you're heading out tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
Want to wish you well in your travels and your endeavors, and I'll make sure to drop the links that I have in the description so people can check that out and follow you on Twitter. Gail does amazing work, and I think you know, and sometime in the future, you have a standing invitation to come back on the show sometime. You know, more than happy to have you. You've been well received in the chat. People have just been absolutely fascinated and interested in this. You know, not only have you provided an education as far as, you know, how you fly drones, but also why and what you do. And, you know, I'm a big proponent, and I try to use it as much, the hashtag drones for good. And I would say that's something you definitely have brought to the forefront. You've given us such a great insight into things. Gail, I can't thank you enough. We wish you well and safe travels. We'll definitely follow you on your journeys, and I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Thank you so much. I just want to say before I hang up, I want to say that I think some of the questions you ask are really, really so pertinent, so critical, because one of them really sticks in my mind, which is about just going to these places and flying. And I think there is a kind of misnomer that that's what I do. And I think it's really important. And you brought it up. And a lot of times I'm interviewed and I'm not asked about it. People, you know, they think that I just show up one day in Iraq and I just show up on the border of these places. And I think that you made it very clear that I don't. And this is a very hard place to get to. And I really appreciate that, because you could get first of all, you could get in a lot of trouble. You risk getting arrested. You risk getting your drones confiscated. But more than that, you risk, if you are not professional, you could kill somebody. A drone can kill somebody. Yes, something like even a parrot. If you were droning and there was traffic, you know, you got to be really careful. And I just want to thank you very much for bringing that up. I just am big into keeping our community safe.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm a big proponent of that, but
Yeah.
we wish you well, wish you safe travels. And, you know, I'll definitely stay in touch with you via Twitter and follow you. And, like I said, you know, we'd love to have you back on sometime.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Take care, Gail. Thanks so much.
Take care, Bill. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right. Guys, I can't thank Gail enough for being on today. I think, and I've seen in the chat, and I've been following the chat. You guys have we're just have asked some great questions in the chat and have some great feedback in the chat. And definitely hit the like button. Hit the like button for Gail today, because like I said, you've seen drones, you've experienced. I know all of you. Some of you are professionals. But this is a totally different type of thing. And I encourage all of you, and I'll drop the links in the description after we're done here today, so you guys can check this out. Thank you, Floyd. Thank you for hanging in there with the technical issues that we had today, but we got around them. We got it to work. And like I said, I knew you guys would enjoy her. You know, I did a lot of looking into her, and you know, and thank you, Gail, you know, for the compliments regarding the questions. You know, I like to do my homework when I have a guest on like you. And again, you know, you have an open invitation anytime that you want to come back on the show on a Sunday, which would be best for you. You're more than welcome to. I would love to have you on. We wish you safe travels. I believe she said she's traveling to Nigeria or Niger. I'm not sure. But she's heading out tomorrow, and she took the time out to be with us today. So make sure you go subscribe to her channel, watch some of her videos. You know, some of them are real short, but you get a real education and a real feel what it's like for her out there. Thank you guys for hanging in there. We've had kind of a long show today. It's been on a long time. And what I'm probably going to do is condense this down and probably get a video out regarding this. so you guys can, you know, just the interview portion, so you guys can have that as well. Thank you guys so much. And remember, it's a great day to fly. Take care, everybody.